Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the pioneer of the Iranian-American stand-up comedy, Eslam Shams.
You might be Persian. If your mother absolutely hates your wife 200% because she's convinced no woman on earth is good enough for her son, you might be Persian. If your biggest dilemma is pork half price on sale, you might be a Muslim or a Jewish Persian. If you justify beating your kids as a part of your culture in order to make them become Ivy League students so you can show off in front of your friends, you might be Persian. If your sister is just as much or maybe hairier than you might be Persian, Indian, If you cannot stand Arabs and Americans cannot stand either one of you, you might be Persian. If you wear fake-ass blue-collar contact lenses, dye your hair blonde, but you claim that you are proud of your Aryan race, you might be Persian. If the people of your country are smarter than your country's politicians, yet they do not do a goddamn constructive thing about it, you might be Persian. If you are 35 years old, still single, and still living with your parents, you might be Persian. If you have a wife in America, yet you still have a wife in your own country, you might be Persian. Upon having a car accident, if you find a doctor who charges you money to prescribe 20 plus therapy sessions so you can use that to file a lawsuit against the other driver and his insurance company, you might be Persian. If you are ashamed of your nationality but brag about it when an Iranian television host on CNN comes on and you start blabbering, she is from the same country I come from, you might be Persian. If your parents only find out about your boyfriend on your wedding night, you might be Persian. If the first thing that comes to your mind after a car accident is how rich you have just become by acting much worse than you were feeling, you might be Persian. If you think carpal tunnel is a tunnel where you can carpool, you might be Persian. If you allow your teenage son to go out with 3 girls at the same time while your 25-year-old daughter cannot date anybody at all, you might be Persian, a confused one. If you study hard to become a doctor, so you make a lot of money so you can open a mechanic shop, you might be Armenian. Even if you become the President of the United States, your parents brag to everyone about your brother being a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer, you might be Persian. If you consider everyone else in America foreigners except yourself, you might be Persian. If your mother thinks you are God's gift to women, and no woman on earth is worthy of you, you might be Persian. If by looking at a woman's ankle you get horny, no, not you might be Persian. You might be Saudi Arabian. If you believe all major events are caused by conspiracies behind which stands England and the United States of America, you might be Persian and you might be right. If you do not plan your life in advance in America, because the best experiences are organized last minute, you might be Persian. If the pedestrian crossing in your country is covered with tire skid marks because the word pedestrians means jack shit to all the drivers, you might be Persian. If you divorced your first wife 5 years ago, got remarried, and still don't let your ex-wife to go out with any men, and you get jealous about it, you might be a male pig chauvinistic Persian. If your religion allows you to marry underage girls, yet your government executes a 16-year-old girl for having sex just because she was not married. Wow. You are one stupid Persian. If your girlfriend has a slight facial hair, you might be Persian. If your parents make you go into the same business as your father, you might be Persian. If you are a part-time janitor at a 10-story building that you own because you're too cheap to hire one janitor, you might be Persian. If women are fighting over doing the dishes after a dinner party while men are still sitting on their butts constantly nagging, so what happened to the hot tea? You might be Persian. If your mom still comes over and cooks for you, even though you are married with children, but your mother believes that your wife's cooking is shit and never good enough for her son, you might be Persian. If you are proud of your nationality but hate to be seen with your fellow countrymen in public, you might be Persian. If you pile up in front of the door of a plane 10 minutes before the plane lands in your country, even though in America you wait till they tell you to get up, you might be Persian. If you go for your own yearly checkup and return with loads of medicine for your mother, wife, your grandmother, your children, and your gardener, you might be Persian. If you always preach and advise everyone about the things you have no knowledge about, you might be Persian. If every time someone compliments you, your mother burns esfand, which is like chamomile flower, to keep the bad eyes away from you, you might be Persian. If you force yourself to wake up at 6 a.m. Sunday morning to go out for kale pache, sheep's brain and tongue, breakfast, then you go to the park to do your power walk and return home by 9 o'clock to sleep until 2 p.m., you might be Persian. If someone in your family grows beyond 5 foot 9 inches, it is presumed his mother had an affair with the neighbor's grocer. You might be Persian. If he can have a pointless political conversation for 7 hours with no results, you might be Persian. If you have to sign 100 pages to open a bank account because system inefficiencies in your country are just part of life in your culture, you might be Persian. If you are only a few feet away from pedestrian crossing and you choose to jaywalk across the street, you might be Persian. If you are at a party and host constantly nags you, "What is this? Are you fasting? Come on, eat some fruit." You might be Persian. If you keep talking about unity for the past 30 plus years, but you yourself do not take any actions for it because talk is cheap, you might be Persian. If you're asked, "Where are you from?" you reply, "From Italy." Yet you're playing with your prayer beads in your hand, you might be Persian. If your parents constantly compare you with your friends and put you down, you might be Persian and you might be my parents. If a girl rejects you for a date, you automatically accuse her of being a lesbian. You might be Persian. If upon hearing Baba Karam, you spring into provocative dance where you make Hollywood Boulevard strippers look like Mother Teresa, ladies, you might be Persian. And guys, if you do that, you might be gay. If your nose is 180 degrees different than your God-given nose, oh, come on, don't lie to yourself. You tell everybody, "I had to do this because I had polyp." You might be Persian. If your race was nearly wiped out by Nazi Germany, yet you still insist on driving Mercedes-Benz, you might be Persian. If you look at the results of your physical exam that indicates you are 100% healthy and you complain, "I spent all this money and nothing wrong with me. Can I get my money back?" You might be Persian. Despite the fact that the Mongolians and the Greeks and the Arabs raped your language, your culture, and your women, you still name your kids Mongolian names like Changiz or Genghis, Greek names like Iskandar or Alexander, and Arabic names. Oh God, there are so many of them I can't even list. And you know what I'm talking about. I don't know how to describe it. You are one screwed up Persian. No, I mean seriously. You don't see any Jewish family calling their firstborn Adolf. Do you? That's what I thought. If an earthquake occurs in your country and the government officials deny the use of rescue dogs offered by the other countries because according to your religion, dogs are dirty and najis, you might be Persian, who has no value for the earthquake victims and prefers for them to die than to be rescued. If you find out that your son is gay and you get mad immediately, but later on you come to terms with it, and when he brings his boyfriend from the same country where you're from, you get pissed off at him and start lecturing him, "Okay, my son, you want to be gay? Fine. At least go out with an American gay man so you guys can get married so we can get green card and come to America." You might be Persian. If you get pissed off when someone calls you Arab or Indian, you might be Persian. If you know the full meaning of the following words, because they are very important to you: SSI, welfare, discount, you might be Persian. You might be Persian. You might be Persian.